Great to see everyone out there on a Monday night. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football at midnight. Actually, it's Tuesday, if we want to be technical. First night in a long time. Monday night without Monday Night Football, if anybody out there cares. I'm sure some of you do, and some of you could care less. I was actually grabbing the remote tonight looking for Monday Night Football for a split second, then I remembered, okay, yes, the NFL season, regular season, wrapped up on Sunday, and so that's it for Monday Night Football until next year. And of course, no college football except for one big, massive, huge, enormous, gigantic game on Monday night. And then no college football until late in August of 2021. Welcome in, MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Great to see everybody on the line. I will respond, of course, to all the comments and all the questions and the topics that pertain to me in the live chat. And I will take your calls at 860-325-3687. Want to remind everyone that we're available on Patreon. Just go to Patreon and search MarkRogersTV, or you go to any of my videos, go to the description section down below and find the Patreon link there. It is 16 cents a day if you do the math. 16.3497 cents per day. And you get the insider look at the voice of college football, which I will expand even more now that we've reached the end of the regular season and I've got some off-season time. Do I really? But we need to provide that, the insider look there at Patreon, in addition to my predictions, which entails one more this season. And of course, watch parties and also exclusive live streams per request. So patrons, voice of college football community, keep that in mind. Per request, I will fulfill those requests over on Patreon for exclusive live streams on anything that you would like. And then also video requests over there, as well as watch parties. So we're done with the watch parties. We had 3 or 4 this past season, but we could certainly maybe take in some spring games. I don't know. Okay, Super Chats available here, or you can go to Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal and contact me directly right there. We appreciate your contribution. Keep in mind that these live streams and the call-in shows are only possible and will remain possible because of your individual contributions. And also, we continue to look for sponsors, and we are making some headway there, hopefully, for sponsorship. And more Amazon shopping is on the way for you, I'm sure, in the aftermath of Christmas. So do your Amazon shopping using the link that we provide in the description section. 860-325-3687. Again, Amazon. Use the link in the description section. I want to thank everyone out there, especially this particular week, because we have just enjoyed our most successful live streams and call-in shows ever over the past week. So it's not been one particular game or particular night or day, but if you take into account our post game after the Cotton Bowl last Wednesday night, where we touched about 500 online at one time and had about 10,000 views on that. And then later in the week after the Ohio State Clemson game, college football playoff, of course, we're going to get huge ratings after that, but still we were pushing 900 people live and 18,000 views on that call-in show. And then that went right into the next night, another 400, 500, 600 people. And then our college football coast to coast with Pigskin Pete today, we were in the 550 range. And also with Brian Knight talking Clemson football at 7 o'clock Eastern time. You got to check out that live stream as well, in which we had about 500, 550 on the line as well. So we appreciate it so much. And as soon as I say that, we've got 18 on the line. Well, it is midnight Eastern time. I wanted to stay committed to a 9 o'clock Eastern time show through the college football season. Of course, with some of these commitments that I have in bringing on guests, for example, when a guest can make it at 7 or 8 o'clock, then we're going to accommodate them, of course. We've got live shows coming up on Wednesday, a ton of them. 2 o'clock Eastern time, Ohio State Buckeyes Live. I think they've got an important game to play, so we would spotlight them. 2 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday is Florida State Seminoles Live. And then we talk SEC football at 8 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday. All right, time for me to blow up the screen because I don't have my contacts in. So let's see what we got here. Right out of the gate, Alabama football fan, Roll Tide. Good to see you and everyone else. Michael as well. Snake Spence, good to see you. Snake Spence is responding to my title. And you guys know I will throw some titles and topics out there that we don't need to adhere to because this is your show. This is your call-in show. So whatever you guys want to discuss. But, you know, I was just looking over Notre Dame football today, and I've got a conversation coming up on Tuesday with Nathan Urbach. So we'll discuss some of these topics. And there were just a number of Notre Dame items in the news today. Number one being that Jack Cohn, former Wisconsin starting quarterback, has transferred to Notre Dame. Don't know what the status is of Ian Book. I don't know if anyone in the live chat has heard Ian Book, whether he has reported any kind of lean one way or the other of staying one more year at Notre Dame or moving on to the NFL draft. I would think that he's a fairly marginal prospect, maybe a 4th or 5th rounder, something in that range, Ian Book. Quarterbacks are a funny breed, though, because everybody needs a franchise quarterback. So they will reach. They will do some big reaching. Other items involving Notre Dame is that, you know, Brian Kelly has whomever is on the phone, please turn down the audio in the background. I'll get to you in 2 seconds. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Butkus Award-winning linebacker, ACC Defensive Player of the Year, top 10 NFL draft pick. Expected, he has opted for the NFL draft. And then, again, Brian Kelly wanted to get to some of his comments following his loss to Alabama. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael. I was trying to do that right before. I was in the process of doing that when he told me to turn the volume down.
Oh, you're fine. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Got a couple questions for you. For what I've been hearing, Jalen Waddle is going to be practicing and stuff like that.
Yep.
Do you think he'll be full strength Friday night, or you just think they'll have him for maybe 10 to 15 play set?
This is a guess, of course, because I'm not a doctor, nor am I close to the situation. I would think that they will only play him if he is close to 100%. Now, what that means, you know, they put percentages on it, and that means something to them. I would say he's got to be at least 85, 90% to play. And then I think you've got a good feel for what they're going to do with him. I think that they'll have some very specific sets and packages and routes and plays for him and limit his time. It's not going to be like he's going to run a 45-yard route and then come back and play the next play or even maybe the next play after that. I just think that, it might be a 15 to 20 play night for him. But I think that's a pretty good guess on your part.
Another thing the world's been wanting to know ever since your last laptop got destroyed. Did you get yourself a new laptop yet?
I did not. You know, I ordered one. My poor laptop. It was a 2011, so it had seen better days, but it was still functioning for me. But yeah, I missed that I can't look things up here. So I guess that puts me to the test that I got to remember everything. But I did order another one because I used my one laptop as a camera, which I've ordered a camera. I've broke the bank here this week. I ordered a camera and then another laptop and ordered this mixer. So hopefully we can provide all of you with some nice graphics here at some point as soon as I learn to use this. And then I was informed by my technical guy today that I need to get some kind of a different audio mixer in addition to the one I have to do better on these live call-in shows. So I told him my two priorities are picture clarity, number one, and actually number one would be the call-in component, because this is the best thing that we do here is all of you guys talking college football with me. So I want to get a better call-in system, so we're going to work on that. But I know that's a lot more than you wanted to hear, Michael, but that's the deal.
You're fine, Mark. I figured you're always up there anyway. Hey, someone just brought up in the chat, NBC. Does anybody know when the contract with them runs out with Notre Dame? And do you know if NBC will re-sign? Or do you think they might say, or do you think when it does run out, NBC, I mean, there might be pressure for Notre Dame to be in the conference full time by then?
I don't know when the contract's up. Those television contracts are typically long contracts. They don't sign usually like 4 and 5 year contracts because they want to establish a brand. And obviously, as you well know, Notre Dame has had a contract with NBC since, maybe the early 90s?
Yeah, I think 90 or 91,
somewhere in that range. And so these contracts are usually 8, 12 years, 15 years, something in that range. I don't know when the last one was signed. I'm sure that can be discovered pretty quickly on Google. I don't think that either Notre Dame or NBC is dissatisfied with their agreement.
Not bad. I would think so too. When CBS's contract runs out with the SEC in a couple years, who do you think they'll be going after? Or do you think it'll be like it was before they had the SEC contract in the 80s, just doing a week, like, game of the week where they'll go to different conferences?
Well, CBS had a very strong tie to the Big Ten at the time. Did a lot of Big Ten football with Brent Musburger and Eric Parsiga doing a lot of the Big Ten football. But yeah, they had a Pac-12 contract as well. Well, you got to look at the sports landscape. Fox has been the biggest player in sports overall since they really dove in the 90s. They've been consistent with the NFL, Major League Baseball, now college football, and but NBC's sports package has weakened considerably in recent years. They lost the NBA quite a long time ago, and haven't had baseball for a long time, and or college basketball that they used to own. So I would think that they would want to hold on to Notre Dame football. But CBS, I'm trying to think what would be in play for them at that point. They're going to lose this in about 4 years, right? 3 to 4 years?
Yeah.
23, 24, something in that range. And I don't know that there's going to be anything available at that point for them to air.
And another thing I'm trying to figure out too, because like I said, I know you're not into basketball and stuff like that, but with that happening too, do you see them also putting a major stranglehold on the NCAA men's on the basketball tournament as well? Or is that pretty locked up for the long term?
Well, again, that's always a long contract. Those are usually the longest of contracts. What CBS has had with the NCAA basketball tournament, and yeah, I would only be guessing about NBC's interest in any of that. It certainly was interesting when I was at ESPN because we would receive, we could have town hall meetings and receive a lot of information about contract negotiations and the like. Involving ESPN, but I don't know NBC's interest in these other sports or CBS with college football. I think they might just be out of luck for a couple years until something opens up.
All right. As always, Mark, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that.
Take care. Yep.
Michael's always a challenge with some of his questions, asking me about TV contracts. Yeah, I'm definitely out of that game over the last couple of months. Not that I was privy to specific contracts, but I got to credit ESPN. They're very open and transparent with their employees concerning contract negotiations and what sports they're pursuing and the difficulties and challenges of each sport in each network. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
The man that gives college football its voice, Mark Rogers. Hi, and how are you, sir?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Well, still in the afterglow of the big win on Friday night. So, started to do some kind of watching some of these games, by the way. Watch some old Alabama games, watch some old Ohio State games from this year, from like earlier in the season.
Okay.
I'm doing some deep dive analysis there.
All right.
That's what
I'll take it.
That's where I'm going with this. Your boy Vinny Prasad is not the only one that could do that. So I noticed him in the chat. So here's the thing. By the way, I have to close out one point. I saw you on Pigskin Pete today, the Coast to Coast show.
Yes.
I just have to say, please, and I'm going to say this to Pete when I give him a call here on Wednesday. Who's your daddy? Because for one night on Friday night, you are our daddy. That's all I just got to say. He's been living off of that now for like a year or so. I just have to say, on Friday night, we showed Clemson who their daddy was.
Yeah, I think you can live on that for a while until the next time they meet.
There you go. Well, on to the analysis of this game. Here's the thing. First of all, I really do like the way Ohio State's front seven on defense looks right now. I think Ohio State's two defensive tackles are as good as anybody's in the country. In fact, you tell me the team that has a better pair of defensive tackles than Garrett and Togiai right now, because I can't think of one. If there's a caller out there or another fan of a team that can point out that team, then I'd be willing to hear them out.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be really helpful. I tell you what, one area where Ohio State has done an about face in the last 2 years is linebacker play. Because you remember how atrocious that was 2 or 3 years ago, and especially 2 years ago when they were just getting gutted in the run.
Yeah.
So I think the Buckeyes are much better at linebacker. I love their defensive tackles, and you know what that means, run defense. I think the Buckeyes really are set up well here to contain the run. I think we can contain Harris. I really do. Now, I know that the Alabama offensive line, and I looked at him, is really, really good. But I wonder how much the loss of Dickerson, their center, who's a really good player, might affect their ability to run the ball, specifically in between the tackles. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Well, we've got our guy Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama coming on, and since Landon Dickerson was lost a few weeks ago, I not only asked him that question once, but I asked him every time he was on, and of course he's going to give a pretty favorable evaluation to his backup, Mr. Chris Owens. But there's a definite drop-off there. I was just looking at Landon Dickerson's recruiting rankings just the other day for some reason. And, yeah, he was certainly highly regarded coming out of high school. And as Stephen depicted for us the other night, when he was hurt, gained so much respect from his teammates that it was just evident on the field when he was injured. So, as you well know, the center position being the linchpin of that offensive line, that even goes beyond just mere physical play on the field. It goes into the line calls and having that leadership role there. So I would think that they've suffered some loss there and downgrade.
Right. I think that's just going to be the interesting matchup. I think the two biggest things to watch, other than the quarterback play, and this goes back to a great man that once said, the most important position on the field is quarterback. The most important unit on the field, Mark, is what?
Offensive line. There it is.
There you go. Yes, I think both teams' offensive lines are top-notch. Don't get me wrong. To me, the interesting thing will be which offensive line plays best and which teams can establish balance. Because I think that's the key to the game, is which offense can be more balanced. Obviously, everybody's going to look at the quarterback. It's football in 2020. You're always going to look at the quarterback position. But I think that's the one thing I wonder is which team can establish balance and have, because that was lost amid, the best performance by a Buckeye quarterback ever in Justin Fields. Ohio State was perfectly well balanced against Clemson. We ran it and threw it really well. So that's the one thing that I'm watching for in this game. The other thing that I would say, I think the way that Ohio State's secondary is going to play, I think they're going to play kind of similar to where they tried to play Clemson, to where they really respected Clemson's receivers and played off. And they gave, if you ever notice, Mark, in the game, they gave Clemson the underneath stuff. They just didn't want to get bombed on or beat over the top. And I could see them doing something similar to against Alabama. What do you think?
Well, yes, I can see them doing a similar thing, but they may just want to be careful with that philosophy. I know Ohio State's a different breed of athlete, but just watching these Alabama receivers take slants and crossing routes all season, and once those guys get in the open field, when you make it an easy pitch and catch because you don't want to give it up 40 yards over your head, so you're going to give the 8 to 10 underneath or the 4 to 6 even, but that guy's in open space and he's got a head of steam because Mac Jones hit him right in stride, then it's not easy to catch those guys and bring them to the ground in the open field.
Well, the thing about it is that in watching Devontae Smith, and the reason I think he's going to be so good in the NFL is he runs after catch as good as any receiver I've seen in recent years, as far as ability to catch short pass and take it into long pass. And, that's the scary thing. I tell you what, I wish we could just build a fort around him. And, I know they've got other great receivers. And I'm going to be really interesting to see, if Waddle plays. I just commented in the chat, how many snaps will he get? And just how effective will he be after all that time off and not having played. Now, I think his presence on the field could be a factor, but, if I'm Ohio State, like I said, I would like to build a fort around Smith. I would try to make them throw to some other receivers. That's what you got to do. So, but yeah, he's scary. No doubt about it. The one thing I'll say about the Buckeyes offense, and this is where Gay had a brilliant game plan, and I hope they continue to do it, and watching the Clemson game again, is utilizing the backs and the tight ends. I have never seen a Buckeye offense in years utilize the backs and the tight ends in the passing game. Have you ever seen that before, Mark?
It's pretty rare. Well, the tight ends weren't utilized that much. It was just they were big plays and they were in key situations. They didn't catch a ton of passes, but they were huge plays. And just to show you the skill set of those tight ends, the catch that was made, was it Farrell or Ruckert? I think it was Ruckert who caught the ball, not the wide open play on the other side of the field where Fields rolled left and threw right, but the other one where he just drilled it. It was in the seam. Ohio State was at about the 10 or 12 yard line, and so he had probably a 20 or 22 yard throw to make in the back of the end zone. And Fields just threaded the needle, and it was a tough catch for a tight end. Not because it was a poorly thrown ball, but it was that type of play.
Well, the thing about I think the second touchdown. If you're thinking about the second touchdown, Mark, that went to Farrell. The touchdown that made it 35-14, which I think was the one to Rucker, might have been the one you were thinking of right before the half. But if it was the second touchdown, that was the one that went to Farrell, the one that tied it at 14.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the 35-14 play.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be big in this game because here's the thing. In football nowadays, you got to utilize all your threats in the passing game, and this is what Ryan Day knows. This is why, I think it's going to be interesting to see if he continues to utilize them in the game plan. Because it's tough enough to cover Olave and Wilson. Once you start incorporating the backs and the tight end, I think that's going to be really tough for Bama to defend. Last thing, Mark, I just wonder how much we're going to be able to utilize Fields' legs in this game, knowing his condition. What do you think?
Yeah, he certainly crumpled up a couple times, and when I say that, that is not a disparaging comment whatsoever. He showed so much courage and guts in that game, but he wasn't going to take a shot like that again, understandably so. And that's going to limit his running. Yeah.
Right, because obviously quarterbacks have been mobile, have caused Nick Saban defenses a lot of problems in the past. So obviously we'd like to have that in our bag if we can. Design runs could be big. I just wonder how much we're going to be able to utilize that with his health going into this game. But I love our offensive line. The two things that give me the most confidence going into this game right now, Mark, about our offense is Justin Fields and our offensive line. And I think those are the two things. I mean, I do love our receivers, and I love the way Sermon's running the ball, but it's all tied together by Fields and that offensive line. And that's what gives me the most confidence going in. I mean, is that a fair assessment? What do you think?
Well, I think the biggest wild card is the secondary.
Agreed. I agree. I mean, I think that I think with Ohio State, that's why I think Ohio State is hoping to just try and limit big plays. And that's why I think the Combs played some zone and played off, because he just didn't want to get bombed on. And they did a pretty good job of not getting bombed on, Mark. I mean, they did kind of keep stuff in front of them. And, Clemson lives off of big plays. So, I mean, as bad as the secondary's been, at the very least, they didn't give up the huge, 40, 50-yard bomb. I mean, which I think was a net positive.
For sure. Now, see, when you mentioned limiting Devontae Smith and bracketing him, I immediately thought of Alabama's approach to Chris Olave and whether they have – they both have talent all over the place. So it's not a question of that, but who do you trust and who is shown to be able to come up big time and time again, and whether they might have the same approach and thought process to Olave.
Sure. Well, I know that in watching some of the tapes of the game, that young receiver, Medshi, looks pretty good. And the other receiver that I've watched, was it
Billingsley?
Billingsley, yes. It started with a B. I also think is a threat, too. I mean, anything that we have to do to get it to throw to the other guys. I'm not saying that they can't be effective, but obviously Smith is going to be the one that scares you the most.
For sure. Absolutely.
So, well, more breakdown to come. You gonna do another live stream tomorrow?
Oh yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for sure.
All right, Mark. You take care.
All right, Dave. Thanks so much. Our guy David Greenshield going to the tape. He and Vinay are battling out, dueling out, hey, I guess that's why I'm doing this thing here. I should probably go back to the Ohio State Clemson game, and I think there's less to derive from the Alabama effort against Notre Dame, but certainly they were playing a quality opponent. Hold down the laughter. They were playing a quality opponent, was Alabama, so their game tape against Notre Dame, but certainly they did not go through the exhaustive pace, the exhaustive just emotional and physical toll that the game placed on Ohio State. I don't think there's any question about that. Yes, thank you, Easy E, answering a question that I was going to hit on that was asked by Eric Huffman about Sark. He's balancing his time between his new duties and assembling a coaching staff at Texas and game planning at Alabama. And the list of Alabama assistant, I should say mostly coordinators, who have been in this situation during the playoffs is a long list, and they have navigated it well in the past. So I don't know that it's any type of advantage for Ohio State, but it's only logical that if he's splitting his time, then he's splitting his time. La Potencia asked about the Jet selection with the second pick in the draft. Have they seen enough of Sam Darnold? Have they come to a conclusion on Sam Darnold? If they think Sam Darnold continues to be their future, then they may. And I don't know what the pecking order is in the draft in regards to the other teams, except that Jacksonville's number one. I'm not a draft guy until the night of the draft. The weekend of the draft, that's when I become a draft guy. We certainly have our NFL draft people that come on here to talk NFL draft and to inform all of you and myself, but I just don't have time to look at the NFL draft and try to figure out who's going to draft whom. Now, the weekend of the draft, though, I love the draft. It is my favorite non-athletic event in sports. Off the field event, it's by far my favorite, the NFL draft. But to let you know who the Jets, you can certainly go to other sources to get a better read on what the Jets are thinking. If I were the Jets, I think unless they are miraculously sold that Sam Darnold is the future and that they have just not supplied him with the right game plan, the right offensive line, the right weapons. He has been lacking weapons, that's for sure. Not that he's had these things to be able to excel, but they would have to be mighty sure about Sam Darnold, which would belie everything else that we've all watched over the last couple of years. He's been okay, but he is not a franchise quarterback. He's another quarterback. He's another guy that I would draft Justin Fields. If I was the New York Jets, I would draft Justin Fields. If you can get a franchise quarterback, and if you don't get the franchise quarterback, then yes, maybe you missed out on a tremendous left tackle. Maybe you missed out on a corner. Yes, all positions are needed. But when you're in the position to where you can draft a potentially great quarterback, and you need that guy, go through the NFL over the last 20 years, and let's start to name the teams that have excelled without a top 5 quarterback. Joe Flacco with Baltimore for a short period of time. And he played like an elite quarterback the run they made to the Super Bowl. Nick Foles at Philadelphia for 1 year. And again, Nick Foles had an outstanding Super Bowl game. And Philadelphia gave up hardly any points in that Super Bowl run. When they beat Minnesota, they dodged New Orleans, which was key. And their first playoff win was against, I forget whom. And it was mentioned by Chris Collinsworth last night in doing the Redskins-Eagles game. Sorry, the Washington football team, Philadelphia game, that he believed that Eagles Super Bowl team had the best offensive line and best defensive line in the NFL. So a franchise quarterback is worth, I don't even think you can calculate it, how many top-notch cornerbacks or how many top-notch tackles, 3, 4, something. So yeah, you don't want to miss out. You don't want to draft Akili Smith. You don't want to draft Jamarcus Russell and miss on an all-pro corner. But you certainly don't want to be the Chicago Bears who passed on Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Young Kids Midwest, not thinking much of Notre Dame joining a conference and being trampled. I can't say that I completely agree with you, Young Kids Midwest. Let's see what Notre Dame has done against quality competition. I'm not talking about quality at the very top, I'm talking about quality a little bit further down. They have won the great majority of those games. Who has beaten Notre Dame in the last 5 years? post 2016. They had the down year at 4-8 in 2016, and Brian Kelly made changes to his coaching staff. And starting in 2017, they basically lost 2 or 3 games a year, or 1 in 2018, and those were always Clemson and somebody else. Clemson, Georgia. So put Notre Dame in the Big Ten. What do? Depending on what side they're on, they become what Penn State's been up until this year. They become Wisconsin. They're good. Ohio State's Ohio State in the Big Ten. There's no other Ohio State. But Notre Dame is not going to join a conference and fall apart. Look at their schedule. Eric says, I think Sark will be good at Texas. Herman had way too much of a savage mentality. Pressure was way too much. That's why. And I found it to be a revelation, if true, and they were certainly, these tweets, these quotes are being read directly from social media as posted by players. And you guys know what players typically post when their coach is fired. Even if the coach isn't doing a great job, the players of these teams typically like their coach. When Gus Malzahn was fired, when Derek Mason was fired, when Will Muschamp was fired, we heard sentiment coming from the players that they hated to see their coach go. Whether they were mad and defended their coach's reputation and track record, or they just simply said, I hate to see this, I really like my coach. We heard anything but that concerning Tom Herman from what I heard on social media. Players, current players, and recent players, past players, were applauding his dismissal. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
Hey, McD, I'm good. What's going on?
I'm doing pretty good, and I kind of want to talk about a few things. The first one being right where you finished off there with Tom Herman. I want to congratulate Tom Herman for being 0-2 against the Maryland Terps. I think that's a great accomplishment right there. He will be missed. It's sad to know that automatic win it had been fired. Maybe he'll go ahead and maybe join Michigan's coaching staff, because that's the second thing I'm going to get into here. But very sad to know that Tom Herman has been fired because he can't beat Maryland. But overall, on a serious note about that, I felt like they had to make the move only because of how public it was about their search about Urban Meyer, and then it didn't work out. So hopefully Steve Sarkisian's an upgrade. I think he probably is an upgrade, if you want me to be pretty honest. And we'll see what happens. I mean, Texas has been, ever since they lost that championship game to Bama back in 2009, it's been mediocrity with Mac Brown. Charlie Strong came in. The only thing Charlie Strong did bad was wins and losses. I thought everything else was great with Charlie Strong, personally. And then you had Tom Herman come in, and basically it was just a bunch of up and downs, very inconsistent at times, and basically that's why he got let go. And so we'll see how Sarkisian would, see how he would do, and hopefully Texas can at least get back to compete for Big 12 championships on a serious level.
Two things, McD, before you move on to your next topic.
Go ahead.
I don't know that it would be difficult to argue that Tom Herman did a better job at Texas than Steve Sarkisian did at Washington and USC.
Well, I think Steve Sarkisian kind of matured. I think he's matured some under Saban. I feel like he's going to be a different coach than he was in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm not saying he's not going to do a good job at Texas. I just don't understand the hire. He won 55% of his games at USC and Washington, and at both stops, the coaches at USC and Washington before and after Sark were both better. Chris Peterson took Sarkisian's program and elevated it tremendously. Even Clay Helton, for as much as he gets ridiculed and made fun of, Clay Helton did better at USC than Steve Sarkisian did. Again, I'm not saying that he can't win at Texas. I'm just saying that because we've seen it with guys like Bill Belichick, who learned, he has been on record as saying how much he learned about being a head coach with the Cleveland Browns, his first job, that made him such a better coach the next time around. And we've seen it with Ed Ogeron and other coaches who have done much better their second or third stop. So my other point there would be, since you mentioned the 2 Maryland wins over Tom Herman, is what has given me great pleasure in watching those 2 games is that, because they were the first games of the season, is that it allowed me to really drive home the point of the top 25 that actually makes sense when I rated Maryland like 8th in the country after those wins.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a great thing Maryland beat Texas. I mean, I remember back in 2017, Maryland, no one was really giving them a shot, and I was sitting here. I wasn't really on YouTube, but I was thinking, I was like, I think we had a good. I was thinking we had a good shot to go down there, at least keep it really close, if not ever beat Texas, which we did. So overall, it's going to be sad to not see Tom Herman there. So
I see you're going to rip on Michigan.
Oh, absolutely. But, yeah, second thing about what I said about Texas.
What else about Texas?
I thought you said you had 2 things.
No, just the 2 things were my top 25 that actually make sense.
Okay.
You know, being emphasized by those Maryland wins. That was the classic case right there of showing what that's all about. And then, yes, just that I'm not saying that Sark may not be, I'm not saying that he will be unsuccessful. I'm just not understanding the hire.
Okay. Well, obviously I am with Michigan. Michigan is a school that hired a president in 2014 that doesn't care about sports, and it shows. So that's the problem with Michigan. The problem isn't the athletic director. The problem isn't so much Jim Harbaugh, even though I think he is a bit of the issue. And the issue is the president who could care less about sports. That's your issue. Dr. Schultz, I think is his name. That's your issue there at Michigan. That is not the AD. It's not so much Jim Harbaugh. Even though I think he is a bit of the issue. He does deserve some blame because he should have been way more competitive. I'm just thinking the past year or two. Especially this year, he should have been way more competitive in some of his ball games. And the previous year before, he should have probably already been Ohio State once. I think he did get robbed in 2016 in Columbus. But overall, that's your issue with Michigan.
Well, I think
in my opinion.
I think what you've hit on there, McD, is that these large schools that have great football reputations and football brands need to make sure that they hire presidents who understand that. Because you got to have everybody on the same page. You have to have a leadership from the top that understands the importance of football if you want football to be important. But there's a definite disconnect when you play, let's say, in a conference like the Big Ten, and you've got a 110,000 seat stadium, and the majority of your games are highlighted on major networks, and you're paying your coach as much or more than anybody in the country. So all that's is basically communicating to your fan base and everyone is that you're serious about football. And of course, you've got this legendary past in football. But if the president isn't a football guy and doesn't understand the importance of football, there's nothing wrong with that, because there's certainly better reasons to be running an educational institution, but you've got a big disconnect. Everybody's got to be on the same page and understand the importance and be on board with what football means to that school and how it's going to be handled.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the AD cares about football in that school. I think Jim Harbaugh obviously cares. But I just think that the president could care less about really any sports. And I'm not criticizing him for not being a sports fan or anything. But at a university like Michigan, the stadium is called the Big House for a reason, because it has the most fan capacity in college football. And to have an historic program like that in the Big Ten, and usually you're the number 2 school in the Big Ten behind Ohio State. There needs to be, you gotta have a president, in my opinion, that at least understands that. And unfortunately, I just don't think their president understands that. And that's why Michigan, I think, is just going to be a 500 team. I think he okayed Harbaugh getting the extension because he's a Michigan guy, and basically he knows how to do things at Michigan. But I mean, I really do not see Michigan competing in the Big Ten as long as he's the president. I think that's your issue with Michigan more than anything.
I am with you. I am with you.
So, I mean, until we get let go, as I said, 8-5 is probably Michigan's destination. But that was the main point I wanted to make. One other quick point. Urban Meyer will not be the head coach of the Jaguars. There's no way any NFL team's going to pay him $12 million per year. He will be on Big Noon Kickoff next year for Week 1 on Fox. And I don't expect Dan Mullen to get the head coaching job with the Jets. A, I don't think it's a good fit. And B, I don't see Dan Mullen coaching in the NFL. I just think he's more of a college head coach. Just want to throw that out there. But that's all I have for you, Mark. Go Church, of course. Thanks for my call, and can't wait for next season of my Church.
Appreciate it, McD. Thank you so much. We've got some comments that we can do without here. There's no question about that. Let's see if I can get to those. Okay. All right. Yeah, let's watch the idiotic comments about particular races. Urban Meyer in the NFL. We've discussed that. Certainly, I'll answer anyone's questions, but we've talked about that quite a bit much here in recent weeks. Dan Mullen, though, if Dan Mullen is hired by the New York Jets, I got to think that the New York Jets have not been paying attention for the last month. They have not been paying attention for the last month. If they want to have a football conversation with Dan Mullen and bring him in, he'll probably wow them. But if they just want to pay attention to what he has, how he's represented himself and his team and his program over the past month, I would think that they would want nothing to do with him. But then again, the New York Jets are the New York Jets for a reason. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hi, Mark. This is Anthony. How was your Christmas, and Happy New Year's, by the way?
Happy New Year. Thanks for asking about my Christmas. I had a good time. How about yourself?
Fine. I missed a couple of your shows because I was out of town, and
how dare you?
My younger sister was getting married. Like, my younger sister got married in Vegas and stuff like that.
You're not streaming the live call-in shows during the wedding or reception or anything like that? That wasn't like a big deal there?
No, it wasn't. No, we were outside. The wedding was on the mountain.
Oh, nice.
Like that.
Oh, wow. Where was this again?
Vegas.
Out in Vegas in the mountains. That's cool. Very nice. That sounds beautiful.
Mark, I have a question, actually. Do you see a guy like Tony Elliott from Clemson, possibly, maybe, because I'm not saying he wants to do this, but let's say he doesn't want to be underneath a guy like Dabo anymore. Do you think he might move up to the NFL and be an OC in the pros?
Sure.
Or would you? Huh?
Unless a particular coach has stated their objectives, their goals, their aspirations, I can only conjecture that most coaches, the great majority of coaches, want to advance their position. They want to go where there's a bigger challenge, where there's a better chance of winning big, where they're going to interact with and coach better players, and they're going to make more money and put themselves in a position for the next jump. There are exceptions to that. We would see where Brent Venables was, of course, and has been the Clemson defensive coordinator despite many opportunities to become a head coach. The Northwestern defensive coordinator who coached his last game a couple of days ago, Mike Hankwitz, was and has been a assistant coach for 51 years. He could have been a head coach at some point. So there are guys that are just grinders that just want to coach football and they don't want to deal with all the head coaching responsibilities at certain places. But you're talking about a transition as an OC to an OC. Now, unless Elliott has just his mind set on coaching college football, which even if he does long term, going to the NFL and learning from other coaches, and typically better coaches, is often a great move in this day and age for college coaches. Brett Bielema recently said that about going to the Jets and the Patriots, that was a good thing for him over the last couple of years.
The reason why I'm asking this is because my Dolphins just fired Chan Gailey.
Yep.
And I honestly like how Clemson runs their offense. And Tua, they run a RPO offense. So I would want a guy like that. And he's learning under the brightest offensive mind in football overall, in Dabo Swinney and stuff like that. So I would want the Dolphins to hire him and stuff like that. And you see, like, with the Hurricanes, actually, specific, and this is back to college football, you see the Hurricanes maybe hiring a coach like Corey Raymond as their DC if they decide to relieve Blake Baker of his duties as DC and stuff like that.
Well, that's an interesting name that you bring up right there, because I hear nothing but positive things about Corey Raymond and his ability to recruit, his ability to connect with players, and his just knowledge of the game.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Yes.
Did you hear my answer?
Yeah. No, you cut off in the middle of it.
Okay.
I'm between Corey Raymond or the cornerbacks coach at Clemson. I forgot the guy's name. I don't know what the guy's name is now.
Coach at Clemson. I don't know off the top of my head who that is. Maybe if I look him up, I'll remember the cornerbacks coach at Clemson. But Corey,
like I said, I would rather, because Corey Raymond knows how to develop. I've noticed the past few years the Hurricanes had struggles developing younger players. They always have to resort at the cornerback position and stuff like that. So we tend to have to rely on going into the transfer portal to get like guys like Michael Jackson or something like that, or Cornelder, who transfer from another team and stuff like that. So I've noticed that's one position we've struggled developing young players at specifically and stuff like that, where we have to rely on transfer portal or transfer players in general coming from another school where they weren't successful and stuff like that, like a veteran player, instead of developing our young players. So that's why I'm saying either Corey Raymond or maybe someone from Alabama, Nick Saban's coaching tree, like an analyst or something like that, because and we might have to replace Bamba too. He's going to Utah State and stuff like that. So I'm looking at Corey Raymond or someone from Alabama or Clemson, like a quality control analyst on their staff because they know how to recruit and know how to develop players from the quality control aspect of the coaching staff. So I'm looking at that, how Clemson and Ohio State probably too. So that's why I'm wondering, should we look at a defensive back coach like Corey Raymond or someone from like the DB's coach from Alabama or Ohio State to promote them as a DC for our defense? If we relieve Blake Baker of his duties during the offseason.
Well, like I said, I can't think of anyone that's a defensive backs coach that I've heard greater feedback on than Corey Raymond. People just praise Corey Raymond across the country for his development of players, his ability to connect with players, his ability to recruit, and his understanding of defensive schemes. So he gets glowing remarks all around.
Did he learn under Dave Aranda? Was he under the Dave Aranda coaching tree?
He should have been.
Or did he come from, or Les Miles?
Well, he should have been under Aranda when Aranda was the D coordinator there. I can double check on that.
Because I know he was there with Les Miles when he was winning championships with LSU. So that's why I was wondering, was he there before? Was he there before Aranda got there? Is what I'm saying. Was he the DC? Was he the under like Nick Saban when he was coaching at LSU before Les Miles became the head coach and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering if it was before Dave Aranda.
You know where you can find that out.
I'm driving around.
Yeah.
I don't have
I got you. All you need to do is Google that. So I'm looking at this right now, and Corey Raymond, his first year at LSU was in 2006 as an intern. He was an assistant strength and conditioning coach in 07 and 08. Then he went to Utah State and Nebraska for the next 3 seasons. He came back to LSU in 2012, and he's been at LSU ever since. So, yeah, he coached under Les Miles as the head coach, but under Dave Aranda. Absolutely.
Oh, so he was an assistant coach under Aranda, not Les Miles. He was, okay. Okay, thanks for answering. Have a good rest of your day. Mark, thanks for answering my call and my questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the call. Have a good night.
You too.
Yes, Corey Raymond, LSU. Let's see, his NFL career. I remember his playing career. It lasted after he was at LSU, yeah. I remember him playing at LSU. Wow, he's my age. My goodness, he was with the Giants for 3 years. He was with the Lions for 3 years, 6 years in the NFL. Yeah. The stuff you forget. Daniel says Herman to Sark is a lateral move. I would agree. We could be sitting here in 5 years and Steve Sarkisian has a national championship and 4 Big 12 championships. And I'll say, I'm not going to say I was wrong because I'm not saying that he's going to fail. I just don't know. I'm not seeing what he's done to warrant a job at Texas. He's going to have to be a much better coach than he was. And maybe the thought process is that he was well thought of. You have to be well thought of to get the head coaching spot at USC and at Washington at the age that he was at the time. He was a young man at the time because, let's see, his first year at Washington, I believe, was 2009. So that's been 11 years ago. So he was well thought of. So the thought now has to be that his issues or his inability to succeed at a high level at Washington and USC were mostly due to not his inability to coach football or coach an organization, but his inability to keep it together off the field, which affected his on-field performance. And the connection is made that if he's cleaned up that area of his life, then he can fulfill his potential as a coach. I just wouldn't be banking on that if I was Texas. If you're Texas, you hire a guy that is proven. McD made the point that after the Urban Meyer pursuit that was unfruitful, that maybe they just felt like Tom Herman's a lame duck, and we've basically demonstrated to all these recruits that he's not going to be around anyway.
The call will start at the beep.
So we just need to get rid of Herman and do the best we can. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's George and Mark. How you doing?
Hey, George. How's the big trip?
I'm in the middle of moving, kind of out of contact a little bit because I got to get rid of everything in my house, pack my car, and leave.
What are you doing with all that stuff?
I'm going to put it back where I got it, sitting next to the dumpster when someone else moved out, giving it back. I got some nice shit, man. I got everything I could sell on Amazon or something, or offer up, you know, everything could be like 150, 75.
Okay.
Nice shit. I got a $3,000 personal gym, which is the best Chuck Norris thing you ever made, the executive model. Some guy was moving to Ohio and he set it outside. I was like, thank you.
Those Ohioans are nice people. They're good people.
Yep. What goes around, goes around. Anyway, the reason I called you is let's hope Florida fires Dan Mullen and his freaking whole staff. Who should we hire? Let's start over. I don't like the way things are going. My great year turned into a very, very ugly experience, and I don't even want to discuss it. Who can the next coach be? Let's search for a coach for Florida.
You want
He's
a
got to
coach?
go. He's got to go.
Okay. I got a
They
coach
got
for
to
you.
fire. If they don't fire him, we, the Gator Nation, will live in humiliation. We're done with the Darth Vader suits. We're done with the dumbass shit. You know.
When did you turn on Dan Mullen? When did that happen?
About 10 minutes ago. I've been thinking. I'm a thoughtful man. I'm introspective. I've mulled it over, and he's gone. He's out of here. We need a booster to pay him off and get him out of here. Done with it. Go be an offensive coordinator in NFL. Not even a head coach. Like, get out of here. I'm going to start a fight with Vanderbilt for every year or Mississippi State. Like, come on, give me a break. We're supposed to be the Gators, like Ohio State or Clemson. Now we're doing stupid-ass Miami shit.
Yeah,
Nothing
it's a bit
against
embarrassing.
Miami. I love them.
It's a bit embarrassing. I got your coach for you.
It's like Manny Diaz and Dan Mullen make a good couple.
I got your coach for you.
Who?
Matt Campbell, Iowa State.
I was going to say that. I mean, in all honesty, it's kind of scary for me. It reminds me of Jim McElwain, one of those Northwest guys, you know, a little sketchy on that level.
Northwest. Iowa State. Northwest?
Well,
You got a map.
Central.
You got a map or
It's not an SEC team. You know?
Okay. I just want to make sure that you're well set with a GPS on this drive.
If we had any common sense, we would have got Lane Kiffin. He was available.
Yeah, he seemed to be out there.
Yeah, he would probably still switch, huh? Just like Mullen Jim from Mississippi, he'd come. We want to pay him $6 or $7 million a year.
You know, just a couple of years ago, I would not have been too high on Lane Kiffin going anywhere to that status, but I think he's hit his stride and he's cleaned himself up a little bit.
What matters is recruiting power, right? He's just like a celebrity or something, you know?
Yeah, he
You
is
gotta get
for some
those
reason.
top 3, top 5 classes, man.
Yeah, you can't hold off Georgia forever.
Can't believe it, man. Even Georgia can talk shit to us now because they ended good and we ended bad. What a wasted season. And we really, literally, we only beat Stetson Bennett, and they were missing 5 defensive starters. You know, I mean, if we played now, they'd probably beat us by 40. All right. Looks like Ohio State has a chance. It's not so easy to pick the championship game anymore, is it?
No. Most people thought Clemson was going to be there. Those Buckeyes stepped up.
They had an advantage. They were just peaking. They were like at 8 games. It was perfect, you know? Like we haven't put together a game all year. Good job.
That was it.
It was good for America because Clemson, they were getting a little haughty. And it destroys the whole tenure of their quarterback. I mean, he goes out a loser. You know, isn't that great? I hope Pete's not listening and Bobby.
Yeah, you got a lot of Clemson fans. We got Jordan Bowman. Maybe he's in the chat. You think I'd be happy with you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jordan. But it was great for America. We loved it. Ohio State won. And Ohio State looks capable of beating Alabama. If Clemson had played Alabama, can you imagine that team playing Alabama? At least Ohio State had a fighter's chance, boxer's chance.
Looks like it. I'll give them a chance.
You know, Oklahoma looked like maybe they deserved to be in playoffs instead of Notre Dame. I actually said Oklahoma. My last thing was Oklahoma should have been a 4th team just based on last week or whatever, you know, they played. Look what they did to us. They could score at will, you know.
Yeah.
Even though it was our scrub team. Even though it was our scrubs, according to the coach.
We could have had a nice little tournament between, I don't know, Georgia, Oklahoma, Cincinnati, and Texas A&M.
I know. In all honesty, it would have been better, more competitive. Man, you got to lobby to get me on the fucking selection committee.
You?
Yes.
You
well,
think
you got a radio show to do. You don't have all day to mess with them, guys. I'll be your representative.
Okay. All right.
All right, Mark. I tried to rent a truck. It was going to cost me $3,500 to tow my car and drive to Florida.
Wow.
So I decided I'll just pack my car and go and get new shit there. I can buy $3,500 worth of shit when I get there. I'll get a new bed.
Working those finances, George.
Huh?
I work in those finances. Well done.
Isn't it great to be free? I've been single for like 20 years.
20 years.
I made the mistake of getting married the second time. You know, there's no chance it'll happen again. I'm not afraid of women unless I talk to them for like more than 5 minutes, and then I get nervous. I gotta go.
And you've never.
I'm not gay either.
And you've never scared any off. And you've never scared any off.
Oh yeah. I'm a centric. They shouldn't be with me. I'm just saying, I'm so happy. I got 4 boys in a row and then a girl. And my second divorce, and all my kids love me. You know, and I have 2 ex-wives. I mean, that's the perfect life. And I live on veterans benefits and Social Security for the last, since 84 or something. I don't even know. It's insane. I'm the only guy. The VA doesn't mess with me, and Social Security doesn't mess with me. I never saw a psychologist. I never saw a doctor. And I got my Social Security on the first try. You know what?
I know that we all know way too much about you right now, George.
This is going to make you laugh. This is hilarious.
You sure about that?
This is hilarious. If you turn your Social Security card over and read the back of it, it says, this card belongs to the Social Security Administration. And if you find a card that isn't yours, you must return it. And it gives you an address. So I sent them the card, and I said, hey, I found your shit. They don't know how to deal with that. I waited a few years, and I went down to Social Security. I said, hey, I'm going to die out there on the street. How am I supposed to live without a Social Security card? And they said, what do you mean you don't have a Social Security card? And I said, well, I turned it over, and on the back, this is literally took me 1 day to get Social Security. And the lady said, quit messing with me. Is this mental or physical? And I said, it sounds like a legal thing to me. She says, you'll get a phone call. They call me the next day, and the lady goes, sir, we understand exactly what you're saying. You won't have no problem with us. Your check will be there next week. I never got a waiting week. My check was there the first month. Bam. And they never said another word to me. So when I get a questionnaire that says, what's your disability? I go, I like to read books. You know?
All right, George.
The last guy
Fascinating.
That, in all honesty, is true. All these people suffering in wheelchairs that can't get their Social Security card, just send it back. And then tell them you sent it back. It's because it says it's their property, and return it if you find it.
You're a wise man, George. Thanks for the call.
I still use the number.
Thanks for the call.
Long. It's just not mine. It's their number. You
Appreciate the call.
All right. Technical legalities. I'll talk to you later. Love you.
I just didn't know where to cut him off. I just didn't know where. Young Kids Midwest. You know I'm going to clean up any factual errors on this live chat. That's what I do. So Young Kids Midwest, if you look it up, Jim Tressel in his first year went 7-4 in the regular season. And then they lost the Outback Bowl to South Carolina to finish 7-5. They only played 11 games. Ohio State's last 11 game season was in 2005? Yeah, 2005. 2005. They went 9-2 in the regular season. 2005. Okay. Young Kids Midwest. Absolutely. There you go. All right. George, giving us some words of wisdom here. God gives us all a way to be free and happy, but nobody understands how easy it is. Okay, I'll take that. All right. I think we've done enough damage tonight, huh? Do I think, Lucine is asking, do I think that Desmond Ridder can be a franchise quarterback for teams like the Patriots and Washington? Maybe the Bengals or the Cowboys? Good backup options. I haven't seen a whole lot of Desmond Ridder. I did during the bowl game against Georgia. That was not an impressive showing from him. I've seen him. He's been the quarterback for, 3 years now? I watched him play a little bit. He never struck me as an NFL quarterback. George, there's always football to talk about. McD loved your... Okay, maybe I'm in the wrong here. McD loved George's story. Thought it was a great story. You know, it's just that, yes, Dr. Love, I fulfill that need in George's life for some therapy talk. Not that any of it stays in my head for more than 13 seconds, but I'm here. I'm here to listen. Yeah, sleepy time, Dr. Love. We'll be back here tomorrow night at, what are we going to do, 9 o'clock Eastern on a Tuesday night? 9 o'clock Eastern on a Tuesday night. And I've got plenty of records during the day, so we'll be looking out for Ohio State, Notre Dame content, Alabama. A lot of good stuff coming up. Also, you guys care to see a video where I compare my predictions, my season standings that I predicted versus the actual outcome of the season? Whether you like it or not, it's coming. I also did some exhaustive comparison. What do with all these notes? Here's it, there's where. I did some exhaustive comparison between Alabama's recruiting and Ohio State's recruiting. Had a video on that. Hope you checked out my rundown of the 87 quarterbacks in the transfer portal. I didn't mention all 87. Got to about 40. And I may do more of that as well. It's the off season basically now, so it's time to really dissect what's going on out there. So if you have any requests, any recommendations, bring them my way. Bring them my way. And also a sponsor or many sponsors. But let's start with one. Let's go with one sponsor. Our sponsor for our Nebraska show on Thursday night is gone. They're done. They've completed their 10-week stint. We thank them, Phone Genie, Tolley Brothers, for our 10 Nebraska live shows. And now we're looking for somebody else. So we need more. We need a sponsor for all our shows. But let's start with one. So if you've got a contact to a sponsor, please contact me at MarkRogersTV@gmail.com. And, of course, the Super Chat's on. And you can contact me with contributions at Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. That was the name of it. See you all tomorrow night. And check out the videos in the meantime. We appreciate it. Turn on the bell for the notifications. I'm probably speaking to the choir. That way you know when we're going live. See you next time. George, have a safe trip. Call us from the road. Young Kids Midwest, burn the Miami helmet. Just burn this thing, huh? It would probably melt. The plastic would just kind of melt. I think. Yeah. It's front and center right now, huh? They did some good work this season to gain that #1 position right there on the top shelf. All right, we'll see y'all tomorrow night.